I am Nick Marck, director.
I am Drew Goddard, one of the co-writers.
Jane Espenson, co-writer.
Danny Strong, I played Jonathan.
Tom Lenk, Andrew.
And this is Conversations with Dead People.
And this has two writers' name on it, mine and Drew, but it's actually written by four of us because Joss wrote a segment of this and Marty Noxon wrote a segment of this.
Over a weekend, if I
That's right.
recall. This is one of those episodes where every single thing went wrong and it turned out better than any of us could have hoped, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's a large part of credit to our director here because, as we'll talk about the prep of this episode,
There was none.
There was none. And we gave Nick, I think, an outline with 3 days before we started shooting.
Yeah.
And an outline that had things like stuff happens in it.
Right.
Yeah.
This opening is actually one of my favorite parts. We did a little rock video, second unit, and Joss and Angie Hart wrote this song.
And we just sort of needed something. This isn't a typical Buffy episode in any way. And we needed to sort of, right out of the gates, say that
Right.
we are not, this isn't your normal Buffy episode with your standard teaser. This is going to be a little different. And
The song became the glue.
Yep, absolutely.
Joss wrote the segments with Buffy in the cemetery, and Marty wrote Willow and Azura Sky.
Azura
What's her
Sky.
character's name?
Cassie.
For Cassandra. And I wrote the Dawn stuff, and Drew wrote Jonathan and Andrew.
Yes, favorite part.
There's Dawn coming into our house. This was great because I got to destroy the house. It's one of my favorite things I ever did.
In your life or on Buffy?
On Buffy.
Very cool.
And, ending with the alone, the song's key. I would say the whole theme of this episode is about loneliness and being alone and how we're alone even when we're surrounded by our friends. And when Joss wrote that song, very clear in his mind about the tone we want to set for this episode.
Yeah. Each of the stories, the characters actually never intersect.
Right.
They're alone in their stories.
Also unusual for this episode, I think this was the first episode ever in which Xander does not appear.
Yes, as Nick pointed out to me.
Yes.
Poor Nick. I adore Nick Brendan. And this was just one of those episodes where it didn't make sense to have Xander in it because everyone's sort of being haunted by their dead people. And Nick doesn't really, the character of Xander doesn't have people that would make sense in this scenario. So it was, wait, hang on, sorry. Tom and Danny.
Ooh, it's my favorite part of any Buffy episode I'm in when it says guest starring Danny Strong.
Right.
Mine too.
There they are driving down Burbank Boulevard.
Actually, we were inside a studio and someone was just shaking the car back and forth.
It's what they call the poor man's process.
The poor man's process. I think we're destroying the magic of
He got a lot of money
TV
for
making.
shaking, though.
Does he?
Yeah.
Who came up with that line?
That was Drew Goddard.
The danger, I'll tell you, the danger with writing for the two of you is that the scenes accidentally come out to be 9 pages long each because it's just so much fun. I mean, it's just, let's riff on everything we've ever loved. I remember my first draft of the scene had Star Trek references and Joss just said, okay, let's take out about half of this.
So would you say that perhaps you, the writer, are Jonathan and Andrew?
I always like to say that when it comes to writing for Jonathan and Andrew, I stick my head in my office and listen to whatever Doug Petrie and Drew Greenberg are talking about and just write it down.
No, that can't be true because I'm Jonathan and Andrew.
Yes.
P.S. Andrew has started to dress like Drew in real life.
Yeah.
Ironically.
I remember that day, they said, let's get Andrew out of his black clothes. And they're like, well, what should we dress him like? Well, he's playing a geek. We'll come up with something. And then I show up on set and he's wearing the exact same thing I was wearing that day.
Now, we just missed a crucial moment in which I was writing this stuff for Dawn, and I did two very important things just now. One is that I had her talk about how delicious anchovies are, which is my personal crusade, because because a certain prominent pizza delivery chain has stopped offering anchovies, and I want them to put anchovies back. And so
you had her talk to her pizza?
I'm doing every chance I have to have a teenage character say anchovies are cool. On any show I work on, I'm utilizing that. I've already tried to put it into work at my new job.
The Nelson Mandela of the modern age.
Yes. And also, I had her get pizza sauce on a shirt of Buffy's and say, well, she'll think it's blood. And then later on in the episode First Date, Buffy's actually trying to wear that shirt out on a date, and Anya's trying to get the blood out of it and says, I'm not even sure this is blood, it might be pizza.
But what about this marshmallow?
This marshmallow thing.
We spent millions of dollars on this marshmallow. And don't try this at home, kids.
You can try it at home. It's perfectly safe.
I remember, Jane, you came in and said, no, that's absolutely works, and no one believed you.
Yep.
And next thing you know, we're all on set, the entire crew, and we're just sitting there mesmerized by the microwave. And
Special effects rigged the microwave. And we said, no, just a real microwave.
A real microwave.
Yep. I couldn't believe it myself.
It was something we used to do in college, and I was like, that's what I would do if I were left home alone. I'd blow up marshmallows.
Whose idea was the mariachi music?
That was in my original script. I just thought because I don't know popular music, and I was like, what should she be listening to? Well, let's make it mariachi.
So you took out your mariachi CDs and threw a couple in and just got the vibe of it.
I just thought it'd be fun to see her like cha-chaing.
So can we talk about why it's Cassie?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
I think you should. It's the commentary.
This was originally intended to be Tara, and Amber was not available.
And again, this was an episode that we were so behind on, and we got the script in 2 days before, and then found out that Tara couldn't do it, and I think at that point I started crying down under the floor.
I wish you would have called me. I would have held you.
Oh, we're screwed. Just put out an episode of Charmed that night, and they said, let's get Cassie. And I said, it'll never work. And now I watch it and I say, who was this originally supposed to be?
This is Azure Sky.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
She's so good in this.
And this character was originally created by Rebecca Rand Kirshner in her episode Help, right?
Yep.
And it's remarkable because this actress looks almost exactly like Rebecca Rand Kirshner.
Yep.
Oh my god, I never thought about that.
Yeah, there were photographs. Because for that episode, Rebecca had to create journals and self-portraits and poems and stuff, so they gave her photographs of the actress, and they were identical to photographs Rebecca had of herself. I handed a stack of them to Drew, and I said, half of these are pictures of Rebecca, half of them are pictures of Azura, which are which? And he started splitting them in categories,
wrong, yeah.
and I was like, no, actually, those were all Azura.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is where the spookiness begins.
Yeah. By the way, about the same time that we found out that we didn't have Amber, we also found out that our boys here were in Europe, and we didn't think we could get Jonathan and Andrew.
And Warren, Adam Bush.
Yeah, it would have completely killed us.
We all had to
where's
fly
he today?
back and then shoot this episode and then fly back to Europe on the red eye that night to appear the next morning in Scotland.
I wish this was spookier.
Now there's a nightmare. You unplug your TV and it doesn't go off.
I thought that would... Now I sort of go, well, on Buffy you'd expect that.
Right.
I feel like I should have written something spookier.
Jane, stop it.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Too late.
Right.
Jane, it's perfect.
I
And
saw,
this is
This is great.
Jonathan Woodward.
I saw him at the posting board, and I was like, hey, you were really great on the episode. And it's like, thanks, it's so nice to meet a fan.
He was great. He was in from New York, and he came into casting, and he read, and we all said, that's it. That's Holden.
Yep. And it's one of those examples that, if we couldn't find the right actor, this episode would not have worked.
Wait, that is great. There's nothing like destroying a TV.
You're a very violent man, Nick.
Did
Or
Michelle,
a
A
stereo.
lot of anger inside you.
did Michelle get to actually wield the axe on any of the hits?
Yes, she did. She did the stereo. The
Nice.
TV was considered too dangerous.
Uh-oh.
Don't do that at home, kids.
Mariachi.
Here we go. Whoa.
I reread this morning my first draft of this.
That's not her feet.
Well, the reason I had her cut her feet was because later on in my original draft, she does a spell to try to bring Joyce back. And she ends up putting in all these mementos of her life with Joyce and her mother. And she ends up, at the very end, sticking her foot into the growing vortex of the spell, and it's her blood that brings Joyce back. We ended up cutting that, but we didn't take out the cut feet.
Oh, and Jonathan is just so good. I mean, I'm.
Thank you. Oh, you mean this actor?
No, I was talking about you. I was thinking about your shot, and
Yes.
he is so good in that
Did you ever see
episode.
Superstar?
Yeah. Oh,
Very, very
have
powerful.
I seen it?
You lived it.
Guess this guy only watches his scenes.
Tom, it's okay. Don't be so angry. Let it go. Let it
So
go.
hard-
Yoga, Tom. Yoga. Meditation. That's great, though. It's nice to be the fan.
This is one of those occasions where Joss just sort of went away and wrote and wrote and wrote, and we got these pages and just sort of read them with that amazement.
The writing of this was so much fun in the sense that our outline was so bare. It was
Right.
Buffy, Holden scene,
Right.
and then mine was Andrew, Jonathan scene, and yours was Dawn scene.
Right.
So none of us knew exactly what we were going to do. And I remember there was that Sunday morning we all came in and we had our pages and we were passing them back and forth to each other, reading
yeah.
what we had done. And it was amazing how it's just the fate of this episode where everything just sort of lined up. We all sort of luckily came out on the same page.
Yeah, this morning rereading my Dawn thing, most of it was there. But I had this whole sequence, like I was saying, where she summoned Joyce, and I also had her run outside of the house and look back
Right.
toward the house, and Joyce's screaming face is in each of the windows, and then she decides my mom's in there and she's in trouble. I have to go back in, and Joss said, "No, I never intended her to leave the house." It's one of those things where you're like, you're at home going, I have no idea what he wants here.
Right.
I'll just guess.
Now, let's be honest, Jane, you weren't at home. Do you remember where you were when you wrote this one?
Oh,
This
did
is
I-
why
did I-
Jane Espenson is the coolest writer on Buffy. I go, oh, you have 3 days to write this. I'm panicking. Jane says, I got 3 days to write this. I'm going to Vegas.
That's right. That's right. I remember I wrote this in Vegas.
It's a slot machine with her name on it.
Yeah, I remember being down in the high limit room at the Luxor going, yeah, I better go back up to my room and write a couple more scenes.
It was like when Coppola and Mario Puzo wrote Godfather 3. It's very similar.
Yes.
They were in Tahoe gambling.
I've never seen that movie, Danny.
It's all right, Tom. It's Al Pacino. Marlon Brando was in the original.
This
We
guy's
had-
got kind of a
We had
Jed
two
Reinhold-
all nights in this cemetery. There's a real cemetery called Roseville. And the strangest thing was when we left in the morning as the sun came up, and people came with flowers for the graves.
Oh.
We shot at the cemetery and we had to drive ATVs in it, and they wanted us to practice, and people were at their graves, and I felt awful. I just stopped doing it.
Right.
It's like people are at their graves and they want us to practice on these ATVs.
Look at that. Was that the coolest thing? How did they do that?
That was with a memory head. We had her there, then we filmed it again, and the camera automatically repeated the action so we could put in Mom.
That was so creepy. I think that might be the creepiest moment, is that dead body just appearing.
That was fun.
I was so proud of coming up with Mother's
Yeah.
Day thread today.
That's just plain scary.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where you type it and then you read it and go, holy crap.
Michelle did this all without seeing all the stuff that we're seeing now, because that was all done later. She's reacting to what she read about in the script.
And that stuff's a pain in the ass to do as an actor. when
She's
you
a
have
good
nothing there.
screamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, our offices are close enough to the editing room. There are some days where you just hear her scream all day long. Yeah, Drew Goddard actually took a pass at this thumping scene because we got into such a crunch. We were rewriting each other's stuff.
And this was when we were breaking it. I just had this sort of in my head, but I could never explain it. I just said, well, no, it's thumping, and she's talking to the thumping.
So he went into his office to rewrite that, and all we heard for the next 40 minutes was thumping coming from his office because he needed to actually thump to write this.
To act it out.
You're so method.
I talked to Ray Stella about making this as dark as possible, but still seeing what's happening.
Yeah,
But-
it's
And
so important
It's very
because
successful.
Yeah, I think he did it.
when you write something dark and then it comes out looking like, a high school cafeteria, it's so dispiriting. This is so beautifully dark.
And rare for Buffy. Usually we're a light show, and even when we're scary, it's not nearly as dark as I want it to be. I remember watching this going, oh, it's perfect.
We got everything working. We had wind. We were shaking the walls. We're like lightning strikes.
And now the show begins.
That's me. And wait, here it comes, here it comes.
Did you do your stunt?
I did my own stunt, rappelling, and Tom stunt double. But that's Tom.
Drew was very specific in the script that he needed to fall positioned horizontally.
It was so important.
I love that I fall on my face and then I say I have shin splints.
And that's begun a long run of your character mentioning his physical ailments that have nothing to do. In the finale, you say, I have swimmer's ear, just as they're about to attack you, I believe.
That was a quote from real life that they inserted into the show.
I wish the show was still on just so we could continue to incorporate quotes that Tom just actually says. When we were in London recently, he was watching a game show on British television, and he said, I can't watch this. I get too nervous for people. This is why I can't watch ice skating. It would have been perfect.
The one we never worked in that I always was trying to was, I'm totally obsessed with LL Cool J and I don't know why. Okay, now this is why it is a joy to work with Tom Lenk and Danny Strong. 2 days before this scene was shooting, I'm walking around the sets for some other reason, and I hear noise, and I'm like, what's going on? I walk into the hall, and Danny and Tom are standing there holding, like a pencil, pretending it's their walkie-talkie, and rehearsing the scene where all they say is check.
Well, when we did the check right there, we wanted to go on and do it for minutes.
Yeah,
and to keep going on and on and on. But Nick cut us. Why'd you do that, Nick?
But look, I played it in one shot, though. I didn't use coverage or anything.
That's beautiful.
And we do have takes where they went on and on. I remember
Yes,
that.
we do.
Nick, you and I just looked at each other and said, let's just let the boys go. Just let them do it.
That was beautifully timed, Warren coming out from around there.
Adam's scary.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
He's scary in real life, too.
That's why he's not here
I'm just
today.
kidding. That's why he's not here. He just scares us all.
But Adam is very, you guys know Adam better than I do, but he's very he really gets into the character. So between takes, when he's in his mode, he can creep you out. Like if he's in creepy mode and you try to talk to him when he's preparing for a scene, you talk to Tom and it's, oh, here's a musical. We're all singing and having fun. You talk to Adam and he's locking that gaze on you. You're like,
Well, Adam's one of my best friends, and I'll say that he does that in his normal daily life, too. It just creeps you out.
He's
He gets
just creepy.
He gets how creepy it is just to be still.
Yep.
I think he's so good on this show. I've always been almost jealous of Adam's work on Buffy because I've always thought it was so internal and intense and
I just have to
really
comment
talented.
that Star Wars moment right there, I think is so brilliant, mostly because of the composer. You can almost hear the dun 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 dun, dun. Like he's totally hints at it.
Yeah.
That guy is brilliant, whoever he is. I love watching Allie cry. She's, I think, one of the best criers
Absolutely.
in the biz.
They did all their scenes in one day. It was like 9 pages.
Wow.
It was very amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible when you think of the journey she has to go on emotionally through all these scenes. Nick, you're awesome. That you can take her on this in one day.
Allison was just right on top of it. She was great.
I am the worst first cut viewer of the writing staff. I see a first cut and just want to cry and get under my desk because I'm just kind of a baby about things. I watched the first cut of this and it was just Jane. I think we were both there and we just. Yeah. I was glued to the screen thinking, even the scenes I wrote, what's going to happen next? It was. I've never been happier.
Yeah, it all worked. It all immediately worked, and it looked like we pictured it, which is amazing because, just individuals picture things differently.
Yep.
And this just looked like we saw it.
It really came together. This set was the original library. They pulled it out of stock and set it up again.
Really?
Yeah.
This scene is just heartbreaking, I think.
Yeah. And I didn't know if it would work without Tara. And it
That's
does.
so good. I think, yeah.
It makes it creepier that it's Tara talking through Cassie. There's an element of disconnect that makes it even more disconcerting.
You know what we should talk about is the fans are constantly asking me if Joyce appearing in this episode was really Joyce or was the first. And if she was the first, how could she be here and in the library with Willow? Now, my remembrance, the way I remember it was that Joss said, yeah, they're all the first.
Right.
Not Holden, but But Azura and Joyce are the first, and it can simply be in more than one place at
Right.
once.
Absolutely.
That was the one grave we built. We wanted like a psychiatrist couch
Yeah.
grave. So we put that together.
That's great.
Now, Nick, you were very good about, because really when you look at it on page, this is really just,
People talking.
30 pages of people talking
it's,
in a
you know, it's
cemetery, but you were really good about mapping it out so it feels like we've got movement all the time.
Yeah. Well, this scene, of course, is a psychiatrist and a patient. So I just pretended we were in a psychiatrist's office.
That's very metatextual.
I don't understand your fancy words, pal.
I
It's like subtext, but it means text on many levels and not just one.
Ooh.
Learning.
Aren't you a writer?
It depends who you ask.
I understand this actor Tom's a huge fan of yours.
I hate you so much, Jenny.
And another example of in the Joss Whedon verse, when we find someone we love, we try to use them in any way, shape, or form. He's been in Firefly and on Angel now. Jonathan.
Really?
Yep. Jonathan Woodward.
It's all about the fun of being a vampire. Vampiring can be fun.
There was another
Don't try
callback.
that, kids.
Another callback, Nemesis being a callback to an earlier episode featuring
Oh,
the
yeah.
Fantastic Nerds.
Nemesis.
Nemesis. Check.
Check.
Let's do it here, Tom, if they wouldn't let us do it on the show.
Yeah, keep going.
Just 3 minutes of that on
Don't
the
let them
commentary.
stop us.
Telling you, it would have been funny.
It is so cool knowing that she's going to. We just know she's going to kill him at the end of this. She has to.
God.
Yeah. This episode came in very long because we all wrote our segments independent, not knowing how long anybody else's segments were going to be.
I think it was 9 minutes over.
Yep.
So
And that's
you know what
after
they-
we cut the page length.
You know what they cut? Tom and Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the first ones to go.
Ugh. We had so much more stuff. That was so great.
The Raiders of the Lost Ark stuff.
Oh,
One of the first references I ever got in the script, and they cut it.
What? Yeah, we've got to put that on the DVD, those scenes of you guys doing that, because...
Did
it's
we
just-
nail it? Was
it's-
that Harrison?
It's amazing how much work you did to sound like the people in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
yeah, we borrowed videos from you, right?
Can we do it? Can we do it here?
Yeah.
They're digging in the wrong place. All right, never mind.
But what was it? They're digging in the wrong place.
But each of the stories had to be trimmed. We took stuff out of each story.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, when you're 9 minutes over.
Yeah. This was a revelation about Buffy's character that we all thought about a lot for the whole rest of the season, the whole rest of the show. This notion of, which he hasn't gotten to yet, but it's going to get to, that she has a superiority complex and an inferiority complex about that.
Right.
That she feels better than everybody, and the fact that she feels that way makes her feel horrible about herself.
It's really, this episode is the setup for the season finale. And that Buffy learning that I need to share my power with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the I am alone, I have no one, I can't, but I feel I'm better than everyone. And her finally learning by the end of the season, she's not, and we're the true hero gives it to everyone.
Yeah, and that sort of sets up her smile at the end of, oh, I don't have that situation anymore. I am not better than everyone, and I can relax and be Buffy.
Yep.
And start working on her journey to being cooked cookies.
I can't wait for season 8.
It's all Jonathan.
The Jonathan Show.
Oh,
Danny,
it
the
would
show
be-
is over.
Shut up, Tom. It's never over.
I can still create a spin-off. The spin-off doesn't have to be right after the show.
We can still act it out in your living room,
I
Danny.
still have Sarah's dresses that I bought on eBay, the spikes, and I do it all the time.
Now, it's funny whenever we're pitching a story in Buffy at the writers' room, inevitably, no matter what the story is about, It could be about a standalone, just about Spike in his past. Jane Espenson will say, "Oh, that sounds great." Now, could Jonathan play Spike's mom? It's just inevitably she is. And I'm the same way about Tom.
Well, there's a reason why Jane's the most brilliant writer on staff.
Oh,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, I think you've just summed it up.
Many reasons. I was the first one to hear that Jonathan was going to die. And I said,
That didn't happen.
we cannot tell Jane. She's going to get... So we in our minds came up with this alternate ending where at the end, Jonathan gets in a hot air balloon and flies away.
Uh-huh.
And we thought, well, we'll tell Jane that. And of course we tell Jane, and she was so happy because she knew it meant... A, there's two things. In the Joss Whedon verse, once you die, you get more airtime.
Uh-huh.
And two, it was going to be a good scene.
Oh yeah, I knew.
This is my favorite kind of fight. Talking and fighting.
Yeah.
Fighting and talking. And here they go crashing through this wall in the cemetery and end up on stage 2 at the studio.
Which was a big deal in the planning of it because we knew we couldn't afford to be outside that line. It was like, how do we get them inside?
Right.
They're in the cemetery.
So that crypt in the cemetery we built.
This is nice. Look how beautifully dark that is.
This is fun.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
That scares me.
I love the lightning strikes.
Yeah. Now, I knew we couldn't afford and did not have time to build a demon, but I wanted to see the demon. So what I wrote in my script was, let's take the suit for Gnarl, the demon from Same Time, Same Place, shoot it from the back and paint it black, which I understand is exactly what they did.
Yep.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I couldn't believe I actually came up with a production idea that worked.
It works great, too.
Yeah, that looked really scary.
That was the hardest shot in the show.
Really?
How do you get a shot of an axe coming right at you? It's really hard.
I didn't even think about that. I wrote, angle on, axe coming right at you. My work was done.
But Nick, the most painful shot of the episode, the hardest for you to shoot,
The death of Jonathan.
the death
Yeah.
of Jonathan. That was-
Absolutely. A knife in the back.
or the gut, either way.
Yeah.
You know what I want to know is why is Tom taller than I am?
Trick photography.
It's very upsetting. Never knew
They've got me
just
on
now.
apple boxes.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Yeah, that's
That
one of the
was
creepiest shots of the
beautiful.
show.
Just him standing so far away, so quiet for just a second.
I remember you setting that up, Nick, and you just said, okay, stand there. Now let's get the light, and as soon as that light hit him, every one of us just shuddered.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Very
it.
creepy.
It freaked people out before it was lit, just him standing there staring.
Right. They created these great underground basement sets for the high school.
Yeah. We were in this room a lot. We got sick of that room.
Yeah.
Oh, that fertilizer dirt or whatever.
Yeah, it was really stinky and
That's a great line.
Josh was very specific about that kick.
Really?
Yeah?
Yeah, he said, kick the hell out of him. Can I say shit on a DVD? I don't know. He said it's like a football kickoff.
Oh, wow.
That looked good. When Buffy does violence and takes pleasure in it, because she, it's a job. She's slaying for a living. But there's something fun about that when you know she's feeling it. Okay, we got to just stop watching
That,
these.
Yeah.
that not my God, because I defy him in every way. It may be my favorite line. That's not one of my own.
The issue of God and religion on Buffy is very interesting because some people take the entire series to be sort of a religious treatise. Some people are completely offended by its religious stance because it's the occult. And then there are these lines like, does God exist? Jerry's still out. They put it somewhere in between.
So you guys are kind of covering all bases, don't you think?
Yeah, we were just being...
Don't want to be struck down by lightning.
Yeah, I think the show's got specific things to say.
Well, it's a very moral show. We have a very strong sensibility, and people take that to mean whatever they believe.
But I think it's a morality that comes from inside.
Absolutely.
We never have the notion of sort of cosmic retribution on this show. I mean, there seems to be, even though we refer to heaven, it doesn't seem to be really a reward system.
The way Joss sets things up for everything on down, story, meaning everything comes from character. Fundamentally, that's how we do things. We are a character-driven show. Oh, she breaks my heart in this scene. Well, let's talk about Danny.
My favorite subject. I was born on a warm summer's day.
Yeah, it is important because I would say that the one person who arcs in this episode in terms of has a beginning, middle, and end, other than just learning something about themselves, is Danny, because we took big pains because Danny, Jonathan, actually the character.
I was gonna say yeah, because I was the same, pain in the ass.
Well,
always
that is an excellent point. But Jonathan's been with the show since the beginning, and we felt a lot of weight giving him a proper send off. It was a matter of Jane and I talked a lot about what does he need? What do we need to learn? How can we service this person?
Well, I really thought that when I read that, I loved it because it felt like Jonathan's character had been arced for the entire series.
Right.
You know, it really was him finally coming to grips of, I don't have to be the outsider. I make myself the outsider when I do it, and I accept my friends and what they think of me and, my place in this sort of Sunnydale world. And I was really, really impressed with it, the fact that it was being arced after 7 years, that he had really come full circle from the one-liner gimmick that we had seen him in at the very get-go.
Yeah, we'd given him this character trait of trying to solve things with the grand gesture in Earshot, in Superstar, and then in his career as a supervillain. And then to see him get the lesson at last. Just when it makes no difference.
But that's what makes the show so good. Is it's like that's when he finally gets it and then he dies. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, that is so creepy.
Very sensitive young man.
Now, when you're doing this, Tom, are you seeing? Do they have it set up so you can see Danny and Adam?
I think Adam was standing behind.
Yeah, he was just literally standing behind me.
We did it twice with him and without him, so we could cut back and forth.
When I read that line well, I still care about them. It actually made me tear up. I was like, oh my god, that is so touching.
Look at that thing.
Yeah.
Nick, do you remember this? We didn't know what the heck they were digging for when we first broke it, and I had this belt buckle that sort of looked like that. And so this is what we give Nick.
It's like a rodeo.
This is why Nick Marck is the most incredible director I've worked with.
Drew won the bull roping.
To prep, 3 days before the episode starts, we hand him an outline that just says scene that's sort of like Poltergeist and a belt buckle and say, go to work.
How about that? That's little sparklies you can buy at the drugstore.
In my first version actually in every version that I wrote of her doing this spell, I had her gouging a circle in the wood floor of the living room. And Joss finally pointed out that it's a cement floor that's painted to look like wood. There's no way she's going to be able to, we can't build a wood floor on top of it. We don't have time. So we came up with a different way for her to do that. And I always missed that because I thought that would be such a great image of like, this is the living room floor that we've been with on the show for 7 years. And Dawn's got a big old knife and she's just gouging it.
I remember the very first day this started shooting, I walk into my office and I sit down at my computer, and on my desk is this giant sign in red that says murderer. I don't know who put it on there.
Who made that?
I know nothing about that.
I love, Tom, you were telling me the story when you guys came back about how the three of you got the script and you read it through before Danny had gotten to that point.
Danny skipped over the part where he got killed, and he's finished the script, and he's like, "Cool, I get to go back.
It's unresolved."
I said, "Danny, did you read this certain page, certain paragraph?" "No, I just went to my lines. What are you talking about?"
I was in a car. I get car sick. I can't read that much.
And then devastation.
Oh, I took it very well.
Devastation in a British cab.
Our dead characters come back.
What I love is that this is episode 7, where Danny gets killed, and in episode 9 he's back.
Yeah.
We managed to leave him dead for 1 episode.
Right. And I'm still not sure he's that dead.
No, he's alive.
He
could come back.
He could so get better.
Was this this seems like this would be like the episode for the Emmy nomination or something, or do they?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think anything got submitted.
Really?
I think they just submitted Fireflies.
No.
Why?
I don't know.
One show is a little bit more famous than the other.
Yeah. I just remember looking at my ballot and I'm not sure. I don't think there were Buffys on it.
Okay.
But this should be. This is a great episode.
Best guest star, Tom Lenk, storyteller. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I don't know if we really could submit any episode that didn't have you guys in togas. That's really my benchmark.
That was my last shot ever on Buffy, was in a toga.
Really? Man.
Parading around. You know, it's not really talked about that much anymore because the show's been on so long, but Sarah Michelle Gellar's really good. I mean, she kind of nails everything.
And for my money, never better than in this episode.
Yeah.
She is so good in this episode.
Such a pro.
Yeah.
There's a thing when Joss is writing for her and when they're hitting on all cylinders where I can't take my eyes off the screen. They are so good together.
Well, it's also like, you know, on a TV show, when you get your hot chick in the lead, how often do they turn out to have like such mad chops, you know? I mean, you see so many shows where the hot chick's just average and there's only so much you could do.
Hot Chick. I love that movie.
Michelle Williams.
Oof, oof.
We kept trying to describe.
We couldn't describe it.
Drew and I developed this complicated hand gesture that when people kept saying, "What about the blood? What's the bottom?" We keep going, "It's whoosh, whoosh."
There you go. It's so obvious, guys. It goes like this.
Drew, never do that again out loud.
Oh, Christine Joyce. It was so nice having her back on the set again because she was one of our dead characters that didn't come back so often. Right. Now and then, you know, nobody's that dead.
Before it gets there, that when she starts smiling and disappears, I think is one of the creepiest effects and so just perfect.
Yeah.
I actually saw this episode with Tom and Adam and a couple other people, and when that happened, we were all like, ah!
We kept saying, smile bigger. Smile bigger. Try smiling really big.
It's amazing how you got her to smile that big where she swallows it.
Yeah. She's a great
She's very
actress.
talented. She's very
Special
versatile.
skills.
Yeah.
Can turn myself inside out. Special skills.
Oh, this is a great moment. I love this.
The moment of realization.
Tom has actually had the same conversation with me.
There it is. She's got it. Ooh, it's so creepy.
You know what's really impressive is how it's 4 separate stories, and yet it's building dramatically towards the conclusion in every story.
This was really shocking. What's a guy with a chip in his head doing biting her?
Yeah.
And a soul.
Yeah, he had a chip and a soul. He had a whole bunch of stuff in his head.
Was that on the set or a green screen?
That's a green screen. She was there for Michelle, but then we shot her separately.
Ooh, the first. Oh, I had a line. In the version where Dawn actually thought she'd brought her back from the dead when she summons her, where Dawn says, "They told me I couldn't bring someone back." And Christine Joyce says, "Maybe I'm the first." Because maybe she's the first. And that line got cut, and I was so upset. Oh dear.
Saddest moment in the history of television.
Oh God.
Oh, Tom, why?
I'm so sorry.
Drew, you're a murderer. I hate everyone in this room except for you, Jane. You're my favorite.
Aw, thank you, Dan.
And you're okay, Nick.
Stab him again.
Everyone was like, so was it upsetting doing that scene, shooting the scene, and it was the end of a 15th hour day? And I'm like, no, I wasn't upset. We all just wanted to go home. We were just tired and wanted to get it over with.
Now they've got like prop versions of the knife where the blade goes in.
That's
and they've
right.
That's
also
what
got
we
versions
used, I
where
think.
It doesn't.
I think we had the kind that went in.
We had everything. We had
Yeah.
a real one. We had a rubber one. We had a
Nick had wanted to use the real one
Retractable?
with no padding. It was odd. I didn't get it. But...
a method director.
Yeah. He's like, you're not going to be back on the show.
Are you ever
Remember
nervous?
then I said, now you got to fall down onto the thing.
Yeah.
Are you ever nervous about props like that? When it's something that could really hurt you? Like, do you have the right one? Do you have the one that won't hurt you?
I am. I hate like prop guns and things.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think so. I've been hurt on stage before in stage fights, and it's never cool. So you shouldn't get hurt.
Ooh, creepy crawlers.
Oh.
Gah!
Yikes.
Jeez.
And of course,
We
you
come
know,
back to the music now.
So
So
cool.
good. Yeah.
And on theme,
Here we go. The Jesus pose. 2 Jews. Except I'm not a carpenter.
We had a really fancy crane to do this. This was great.
you had to remember how you landed because we matched that later.
Did I?
Yeah.
That's how good I am. I can land in the same position. Good episode.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
let's talk more about Danny.
Yeah. I was born on a warm summer's day. Very much like today. My mother said the angels were singing.
Well, this was Conversations with Dead People.
Woohoo!
At
Well
least this
done.
was a conversation with live people.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Peace out.